Resentment towards the police exploded on the August bank holiday of 1976. The Notting Hill Carnival, previously an event which showcased the Caribbean culture of older West Indians, became the unlikely setting for a bloody confrontation between their children and the police.
The whole thing about 76 was that the police were the ones who created it. There were more police in fact, than was necessary. People were being pushed into particular areas, you know. Because of the brutality, the black youth responded. And it ended up with people showing that they disagreed with the way the police had handled the whole thing, and it created havoc.
Carnival 1976, and the television images of the police battling barrages of bricks and bottles had two immediate and damaging effects. It reinforced stereotypes about black criminality, and it convinced the younger generation that there was no place for them in conventional British life. Many began to listen to a new voice that would offer a different identity.
I'd seen and suffered racism from the time I was getting to school, and I'd always have to fight against it, and I could never understand why it is we were in this position. You know, what the hell is wrong with us that these people can't just see we're normal people, and why are we always having to deal with this issue of race? And then one night I was watching telly late on, and it was the old grey whistle test, and I saw this guy come on, and his hair was matted.
Instead of concrete, I said, where the living is hardest. Your concrete jungle, man, you got to do your best.
I found it enormously strengthening.
No chains around my feet, but I'm not free.
Really succinctly encapsulated everything that I had been feeling, not yet thinking, but feeling about Britain, racism, school, employment, police.
Bob Marley would eventually achieve huge popularity in the mainstream British pop market. But his initial impact was among Britain's black youth. For them, Marley's music offered a kind of salvation.
Marley sings out of that trouble, out of tribulation, out of exile, out of, being marginalized. And he makes the symbolic connection between Kingston and Handsworth. Yeah, black people feel the same. They don't know what Kingston is like, but they know Handsworth is like Kingston. Both of them are being surveyed by helicopters from and entered by police cars, etc. It's the same. You are in Babylon.
To the new generation, Bob Marley was more than a musician. For Marley was a Rastafarian. His religion rejected the Babylon of Europe for a vision of return to the Zion of Africa. Rastafarianism and reggae now became twin vehicles for defiance.
Had my own tam knitted, red, gold and green, turned the afro into locks, walked around with several pounds of wax in my head for a few months in order to get it right. We used to smoke copious amounts of weed, open the book, read the Psalms.
And of Zion it shall be said, this and that man was born in her.
And its references in the biblical senses to Babylon, Zion, a revolutionary thought at the time that God was a black man. You're sitting here trying to deal with racism and you think God's a black man, and you say it, and white people palpably drain or look as if you're completely lost your marbles, you know, how can this be?
You know, it's conjured out of the back end of the Bible read upside down, you know, myth about Haile Selassie. You know, it's conjured out of the boogie box that plays roots reggae music. You know, it's conjured out of stories coming out of Kingston, you know, the gun court and Trench Town. It's conjured out of scraps, really, bits and pieces, but they manufacture for themselves a black identity that they feel proud of. They find a space for themselves. And my honest opinion to you is that that generation would have committed a kind of collective social suicide without the birth of that kind of black British identity in the 70s.
When you're in a position where racism absolutely imbues your every aspect of your life, education, play, policing, the whole thing, you felt that because you were under attack, you had to culturally express yourself in a larger-than-life way in order to push back.
Be your natural self.
Although borrowed from a Jamaican experience, reggae and Rasta now became the key to coping with being young and black in Britain. The red, gold and green became a symbol of their origins to a generation who had little, if any, recollection of the islands their parents had come from. Even those who didn't adopt the religion were drawn to the language and the culture.
When I was young, the greatest thing was to be a Jamaican. It didn't matter whether you were St. Lucian, Grenadian, Mauritian, Dominican, whatever. Everybody wanted to be a Jamaican and everyone spoke Jamaican patois, and nobody didn't come out of the closet to say, well, my parents are really from Barbados or anything like that. But it wasn't about being Jamaican, it was our way of building our own black British identity. We all had to have something that we could all identify with, that we could all come together with, and that's how we started to build something. It was like, yes, here's the common ground, we'll all be Jamaicans.
But even as the new generation struggled to establish their identity, others were promoting an older idea of what it meant to be British, one in which there was no place for black people. The National Front had become a force to be reckoned with in the 1970s, whipping up anti-immigrant feeling across the country by inflaming fears of black criminality. In August 1977, the Front staged a demonstration against black crime which would march through the heart of one of Britain's most significant black communities, Lewisham in South London. It was clear from the outset that some of the younger generation had other ideas.
From the first time hearing that the march was going to go ahead and where it was going to go through, we all had our little gangs. And as a child, my gang, we were out making plans like army officers of, yes, we're going to ambush this march here and we're going to do this, and went away and got hundreds of milk bottles and built Molotov cocktails and all the rest of it, and it was like, yeah, we're going to get into this.
My concern going into that morning was what in heaven's name what are we going to do about those people? Because they could make a difficult situation very much worse.
The police tactic on the day was to put themselves between the counter-demonstrators and the National Front march. But any hope of their appearing to be neutral vanished with the sight of 4,000 police officers escorting the front through the area.
Immigration! Repatriation!
I tacked myself onto the back of the National Front march, and we turned into New Cross Road, the main road, and as we turned we were met with a huge barrage of all sorts of things, including red dye and stones and bottles and goodness knows what else, and it was just a little scary, I don't mind telling you.
What's your first aid? Get an ambulance.
As the police responded to the furious attack on the front march, the situation quickly degenerated into an all-out battle.
All right, you've got these hundreds of people walking down the road shouting out, I don't know, anti-black slogans. And you got hundreds of black and white on either side of them shouting out and throwing things back and whatever not, but it didn't need to go as far as it went.
What followed was almost inevitable. The demonstrations and the stand that people took at the time, I think, helped to show to, well, to the front and to people thinking like them, that their views were intolerable and would not be accepted.
The events of that Saturday in Lewisham did little to improve relations between the black community and the police.